about to have an interview with the best sniper in the world. He only goes by the alias of the sniper. Welcome everybody to the sniper episode. It's going to be the same concept as the previous one with the Synex, but this time around, instead of the best Synex in the world, we have a guest who is considered as the best sniper in the world. And he will be the best sniper unless contested. And we're about to bring him on here. He is Dollar of the Panda Guild. Just wanted to give like a quick overview of sniper. I think for global, because unless it's considered a bug, which some say it is, and it's going to be fixed, I think most people are going to be rolling. Was it like Trapper?
Yeah. Especially early on, right? When the server first launches. What was the initial server level? Isn't it like 30?
30, yeah.
At once? And then a few days later it goes up to 35 and then 40?
Yeah. So next day 35, and I think 1 or 2 days after that 40.
Because I know a lot of your viewers are asking a lot about Trapper.
Yeah.
And like how long it's gonna be around for. I saw it in the official Discord also. Everybody's talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is the discussion mostly around how viable it is after level 70, or kind of how I started to play sniper? And
so we can start off with how you started to play sniper and your play style towards it, but then we can move on to I mean, the fact is, like, a lot of people already are probably going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be a trapper until like level 70, and either they're going to continue as a sniper, or they're probably going to reroll to like something like wizard or something like that. Is a lot of people's plan. But there are a lot of people who want to play sniper. There are a lot of people who want to see if sniper is viable, and I've reiterated there was the pros and cons of sniper for later into the game. But I think hearing it from somebody who has kind of min-maxed sniper to the maximum as much as he could, will probably be better received as well. So wanted to get your insight on I guess we could probably skip the 1 to 70 part, because it's mostly just going to be trappers. But like for 70 and above, what are your thoughts on like the meta when it comes to 70 above, especially for global and the upcoming OBT?
Yeah, so if you're looking to min-max early on, just like a quick overview of 1 to 70, if you're trying to min-max leveling or clearing instances from 1 to 70, you want to try to kill as many things as possible quickly, especially when it comes to leveling. Then definitely Trapper is something that you want to do, especially because it's a lot more F2P friendly than going ADL, but also because early on you don't actually have the stats to build ADL. Later on, after level 70, when you get things like Ixion Bow, it's a lot easier for you to hit max attack speed, because Ixion gives you 30%, but also you unlock enchanting, so you can roll for agility sublines and get a lot of agility there and get a lot of attack speed there as well. But early on, people, initially from 0 to 30, 40, they go double strafe, because that's pretty much your highest form of DPS. Yeah. And then you transition to Trapper. But even in the tail end of closed beta, a lot of the sniper hunter whales that were already level 70, they were already switching out of Trapper. So I think people understand that, yeah, it looks good, it's high DPS, but for things that are important, to them, which is, 3v3, 5 versus 5, or 40 versus 40, Trapper is very hard. If you could stand in a capture point and spam traps with a whole group protecting you, I mean, that sounds great, but it's not necessarily realistic all the time. And you could pretty much do that with any other class like wizard or ME priest as well. So the difference, of course, is that snipers die a lot faster because they don't wear a shield, and their cast range is significantly shorter than something like a wizard or an ME priest.
Exactly.
So yeah, so if you want to talk about what happens after level 70,
Yeah.
usually people grab Ixion bow to achieve a lot quicker
Attack
of max
speed
attack
boost.
speed because
Yeah.
that's the cheapest way to achieve ADL.
Hmm.
But some of the whales that I know, or the ones that are very very try hard in terms of um maxing out DPS for ADL, they actually try to not rely on Ixion procs or momentum core to be able to hit max attack speed uh because snipers are such a glass cannon early on.
Yeah.
um the the first 3 seconds of engaging another character is the most important because it's not realistic that you're going to be able to stand there and hit somebody for like 10 seconds,
Yeah.
right? Because
Wait
someone's
for a
going to aim
proc.
for you, you're going to die.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for MVPs, for PvE, that's fine.
Yeah.
But for PvP and for 40 versus 40, the moment you appear in somebody's screen, later on when champs come out, they'll just body relocate to you and then you get punched.
Yeah.
So the thing about Ixion Bow and Momentum Core is that it relies on you. It relies too heavily on you being able to stand there for at least 3 seconds, 5 seconds to build up
Attack speed.
the attack speed, and
Yeah.
then the DPS fully scales up and you're at its peak. But um, but when you're max attack speed already, uh, you're basically at max DPS the moment that you engage an enemy,
Engage.
so you can
Yeah.
actually kill 2 to 3 times more people.
Yeah.
So that's what I've noticed. People who are not so free to play, they actually go Malong and then they just max out attack speed and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
But you actually don't need deck for ADL. That's what I've. That's how I kind of built my character in private server, and then I went to NA and did the same thing.
Hmm.
Your majority of your DPS comes from your
Auto
your
attack speed.
gotchas,
Yeah.
your damage, your refines, things like that. That's where a majority of your damage actually comes from.
Hmm.
You don't need dex because crit doesn't miss. So dex improves your hit and improves your damage,
Hmm.
but you're basically feeding into the same stat. You'd rather go max attack speed and pretty high luck, and then go into bit or something like that.
And rely more
That
on
way
like
yeah. I mean, you
yeah.
crit all the time anyways.
Yeah.
And if you have high depots, then you're gonna have high damage,
Yeah.
and
And
you can just save all this because stats are extremely important early on. You don't have that much of it.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I think you rely more on like the damage that you get from refines and costumes and stuff, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's MR, it's your refines, it's your gotcha deposits, it's your headgears.
Mhm.
That's where a lot of your damage comes from. Not from decks. Like you could like stress test and compare 99 decks and 0 decks, and the damage is negligible.
Like 100 something, I
Um,
think, difference worth.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that much.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on just the like directly right after level 70. Level 70, 80, everybody's using Ixion,
Yeah.
your ADL. um i I used to start off with Ixion because I didn't have that much stats, and then in especially in 3v3 and 5 versus 5 for the guild versus guild stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just don't have time. I mean, and then it's like you got to hit the pets, and when they're maxed your pets, you got to focus on the pets. But
Yeah.
and then you got to focus on the class, on the characters. It's a lot going on, and
Yeah.
um
So
so my advice is for people who actually spend and want to go agility, dex, luck, is to try to get 500 max attack speed without cores and without the bow.
yeah. So do you think like ADL is people switching over to ADL? Do you think it's more like of a? 'Cause I know a lot of people say that in Taiwan, Trapper is still meta. So do you think that like people switching to ADL is a symptom of the inherent weakness that Trapper Sniper has, and people are starting to realize that, and then now they're actually going to a different build with ADL?
So So I watch a lot of the Taiwan gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's very it's very turtley, but also not as coordinated as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you can protect a trapper and basically have them stand in a shell, it's effective. But when things are messy, or when other guilds are coordinated with their pushing also, it's not. I don't think it's that great. Um, People go ADL because in a one-on-one situation, Trapper versus ADL, the range is double, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you go status. The
Yeah.
reason that it's so effective in Taiwan is because they negate crit. They all go curse. I know, I know they wear cards, or some people do. Some people wear cards where if you hit them, you turn cursed, and then curse basically reduces your luck to 0.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a crit counter, but there's ways around that too. People are going Falcon around 80 to 90, like in Falcon. So, and the range is still the same as ADL,
Mm-hmm.
but as the server level goes up 70, 80, and you get things like R cores, um, relying on people to step on your traps, or having to walk to like a 4 or 5 cell range to be able to cast trap is not reliable, especially when you die really easily.
Yeah.
Because
There's
then the
squishiest
trade-off
class in the
is like,
game.
right, the trade-off is, okay, well, I could be a Sen X where I don't have a shield also, but I have mobility. Or I could be a wizard and a priest where I could be DPS, but I have survivability because I have a shield.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I did watch Taiwan. I don't think it's going to be the same here as it is going to be in Taiwan. I don't think people spend as much either, as like, from what I've seen in closed beta. A lot
Mm-hmm.
more people are spending here,
Yeah.
and traps don't necessarily scale against high refine defense and high
Yeah.
defense overall.
Yeah. Even in NA, even people who tried to build like pure trapper, it would even with against the tankiest class as the later the game went on, they would be able to chunk them, but they would never be able to finish them off. So it's you get step on one trap just to be able to hit them, and then you take like maybe 10%, 20% of your health off, and then you just end up finishing them off.
Yeah, because if you think about what's useful class wise and why it's useful, the reason that ME Priest does so well, and the reason that Wizards do so well, and the reasons that Snipers do so well, is
Mhm.
because ME and Gravity Field both ignore magic defense.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, it's an anti-whale skill. And later on, when snipers get sharpshoot, Malongbow gives you 30% ignore defense when it's plus 15. So that's like another anti-whale measure, because
Mechanic. Yeah.
whales have a lot of defense, like a lot of defense,
Yeah. Like
and like that's
percent.
usually what separates people early on. So those skills just fully ignore those things from 80 to 100.
Yeah.
So that's why they're really really useful regardless, like no matter if you're super strong or if you're semi casual,
Mhm.
like it's a little bit more effective than other skills.
Yeah, and that's where Trapper falls, kind of like
Yeah,
falls behind.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So the only the other thing that I wanted to talk about too is that the inherent weakness that snipers have in general is because like we both know that they have the lowest HP scaling in the game. Plus they don't have a shield. That means they're like squishy to like the second degree almost. And what happens then? Like I feel like when the meta starts to become a ranged burst meta, even with the red cores out, even with red cores making cast time for sharpshoot fast, it's still a skill they have to aim. So there's some counterplay to it for people with fast hands or people who know how to kite as well. What happens then when sniper gets to the range of like the level 110 to higher? Because as far as we know, the the build that gets buffed technically, that gets like buffed at 110 and 115 because of weapons plus accessories is ADL and not sharpshoot, which is supposed to be what's meta for sniper.
So at around level 90 to 100 is when we get arc cores, and snipers actually get one of the biggest buffs from arc cores.
Yeah.
Because they have one of the strong they end up having one of the strongest range bursts in the whole game, alongside the Synexes.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the only range bursts that exist in the game are all mostly that are AoE somewhat, are mostly magic.
Yeah.
So it changes how people and guilds build reduction, because if you're woeing and majority of the kills are wizards and ME priests because they're the ones that are AoE in range, everybody's gonna build anti-magic. Everybody's gonna go benediction. But then at level 90 to 100, now you kind of have to go a little bit more stone skin, which is physical magic, physical reduction.
Yeah.
Because now you have physical range AoE burst as well.
Yeah.
So at around that point, snipers are actually pretty strong, I would say. You reduce the fixed cast time by half, so it's only 0.5, and you could reduce it further if you want. Most of the time, if you're a whale, you already one-shot everybody.
Yeah.
Generally from the sharpshoot buff, especially if you have decent cores.
Yeah.
So what I did was I didn't go crit enchants. I went fixed cast time reduction enchants, so that I could get like a 0.2 second cast time, because at that point in WoW and in 40 versus 40, you just want to be able to shoot as many arrows as you possibly can in a short period of time without getting interrupted.
Yeah.
So snipers actually become really strong at that point. If your guild doesn't have any AoE magic, other guilds can just spam Numa though. And then everybody's just Numaing everywhere, and then you're basically countered. You do 0 DPS.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that I've seen happen, but I think most guilds are balanced where you have AoE magic. So you basically can just pair a wizard party with a sniper party, and if they just spam Numas everywhere, you just drop a grab field, and then everybody sitting with Numa just dies.
Yeah.
So that's around 90 to 100. Building a sharpshoot sniper, I think, is still worthwhile, especially because hopefully that's around the time that WoW comes out, and sharpshoot snipers are also very good for WoW, because they complement Divine Spike, which is an arc core for ME.
Yeah.
They complement Divine Spike really well because they both root.
Yeah.
Sharpshoot and ME both root, so you basically can just hold a huge stack in place.
Yeah. Red core.
So it's yeah. So I do think it's good. I do think that snipers are good. The issue is that it requires a whole party dedicated around it, right? And so so exactly, you need like a Devo, you need a priest, you need basically people to protect it. So at that point, you just kind of have to ask yourself, okay, what's more useful at this point? Is it a Grimtooth whale, Sin X, who pretty much does the same thing? It's like an AoE 500 attack speed, spam cast, physical damage, or is a sniper who's in the front line with, I would say, about 1.5x their range. Which one's better? Which one does your guild need? And so, if your guild needs more of a 3v3, 5v5er that is also useful in 40 versus 40, I would definitely say Synex probably has the upper hand in that. But for WoW, I think frontlining, being able to kind of stay in your stack and rotate left and right, and you don't need to clear one or two people on the sides all the time. You rather just clear a whole stack, and snipers still better at 100.
And I think it's Probably the biggest difference is probably the safety of being in stealth way, being able to do Grimtooth with red cores out, right? It, it, it's like you don't have a shield either, but at the same time, at least you have that, like, because a lot of people, yeah, this is one thing I've noticed, and I notice a lot of people do in 4v40 or WoW sometimes. Not everybody casts Sight, not everybody casts Ruach, not everybody has a Horon card to cast Sight. So it becomes a huge problem if there's a wailed out Synex out there, you know, kind of like flanking your group, flanking your stack, and nobody has, you know, the skills out like Ruach or Sight to reveal them. So then they kind of just like go to town on your whole guild until somebody like does it or somebody casts Numa.
Yeah, exactly. Because dollar for dollar, if a Synex and a sniper spends the same amount of money, over time, the Synex wins out because the sniper is going to be able to one shot everybody, and the Synex is going to get close to it, but the spam rate of the Synex is 3 to 4 times the spam rate of the sniper.
Yeah.
And you know, there's no point in scaling your DPS if you're a sniper and you're already killing everybody in one hit. You just want to be able to attack faster.
Yeah.
You want to survive, you want to attack faster. But the problem is there's a cooldown, there's a fixed cast, there's an animation delay, so you just end up always casting slower.
Yeah.
So, you know, over time, I would say like 100, 110, you get to a point where all the whales can one shot each other, or for the most part, 2 to 3 shot each other if you're DPS, especially with feathers and emblems.
Yeah.
And it's just who can survive longer, because the longer you survive, the more people you kill. It's just everybody's trying to get theirs. Everybody's going around, you know, with their parties, and if they see somebody and they get the jump, they get the kill. But it's like, okay, well, if you're a sniper, you don't have invis, you don't have mobility, so people see you walking around with your party, you're just gonna get jumped.
Yeah.
And even if you do a lot, like, it's a lot easier to focus you, you know, as opposed to like a wizard, right? Even if you're a wizard and you're walking around and somebody's about to jump you, you could basically just cast graph field on yourself and nobody can really jump you. You're just gonna die in there.
Yeah.
Same with ME, you know, ME priest can just put a Numa down or a safety wall down and they're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, wizard also has the option, like, not only do they have shield, but they can also safety wall, and if it's a magic caster going after them, they could easily just like quick cast what is it called again? Like the magic shield that they have. Yeah. But and I guess the only thing that you have as a sniper is, yes, you do have Windwalk, but that's also on a very high cooldown, and Windwalk doesn't help you when you're stuck in an animation when you're doing sharpshoot either. So yeah, it's just a lot of cons that sniper has versus like the other classes that could possibly carry with the same amount of investment.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that the game progresses, around 80 to 90 or 80 to 100, I would say. It's not really a burst meta yet, so it's more like sustained damage. Supports that are a whale become really, really strong. I mean, it's kind of like, you kind of imagine it to be something like first season of DSB, where all the priests are just super tanky and they heal a lot. Like, there's no burst, so you can't really kill anybody, and everybody has strong sustain. And then after you hit over 100 and you get the arc cores, then it becomes bursty.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing a lot of damage. And then after that, it starts to tail off around 120, because 120 is when you get elemental reduction armors. So things like Sage get some massive reduction in damage. Everybody's healing and surviving a lot longer.
Yeah.
So, you know, the burst stuff just, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. So you're gonna have to change your playstyle. And for snipers, you know, it's the difference between them and Synexes is that regardless of what the meta is, their mobility doesn't change. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you can still kill a sniper even if it's not a burst meta. But it's very hard to kill. Imagine if it's not burst meta and
Yeah.
you're trying to kill a Sin X, like it's very difficult with how fast and how how quickly they move and how much damage they do,
Yeah.
either through like a sustained period of time or if there's something like double daggers. So that's
Hmm.
and it's a one-on-one situation, it's even harder. So
Yeah.
uh that's I don't know if that helps at all in terms of my perspective on sniper, but
Yeah.
for everything else, if you like PvE, you like content stuff. I mean, sniper is a great class. It's very easy to use. It's great for MR and all those things. It's great for hunting.
Hmm.
Uh, so I mean, I don't want to discourage anybody from playing it. You kind of just have to ask yourself what your goals are, realistically.
Hmm.
If you're trying to build the best 5v5 team, um, sniper's probably not it. But if you want to kill MVPs and you want to be strong, you want to help your guild win WoW and stuff, and you're anticipating our course, then sniper's not bad. It's a really useful class
Yeah.
for what it gives you.
Yeah. Also, good thing to note is that sharpshoot doesn't care about LP, even if it counters ME and
Yeah.
grab field. So that's another thing to consider when you're playing sniper. You won't be the best at everything, but there are certain things that you can do well. You just have to identify your weaknesses and kind of adapt to that, and kind of push through the meta, even if it's not in your favor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, Brimtooth also goes through LP.
Yeah. At the same time, so
Yeah,
it's rough for snipers for a little while there, but but
like
yeah.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with the talks of like fourth jobs coming out, then maybe there's some redemption there. I know I saw some skills that would give rangers more tankiness, like more HP, more defense. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to make up for how inherently squishy snipers are, but
Mhm.
there's some approach there towards its weakness, and it's gonna be hard to balance because if they make them too tanky, they'll be too dominant. If they make it like not matter too much, then it's just the same situation all over again.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like the weapon 3 slot buff helps a little bit.
Hmm.
Because Katars and bows, all the two-handed weapon stuff,
Yeah.
they get an extra card slot, so that helps. But like I said, it just really depends on your preference of play and what you're looking to do and to achieve in the game.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that pretty much, like, I think that hopefully that explains a lot to the people who have been thinking about playing sniper. So we made it clear it's 1 to 70, really good early game for grinding. A bit expensive
Well,
having to
it's really
extend
good.
straps. Yeah. So even for free to play. But then as you get to level 70 and you get higher, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, that's when the meta begins to shift, where the inherent weakness that trappers have starts to get displayed, and you don't really function anywhere out of either like turtling or placing traps in your backline to protect them during woe. And yeah, in small instances like 5v5s and 3v3s, and even some at times like maybe in 40v40s, you'll find a better use as for yourself, especially if you're wailing out for ADL, because your job as a trapper is better performed by classes like Grab Field Wizard at level 70, for example, who just completely ignore magic defense because of Grab Field. But yeah, Adela, you want to add any more insights before we close off?
No, I think you pretty much touched on everything I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna have its uses. Of course, trapper, and people are gonna be stubborn, and they're gonna say that it's still gonna be meta, it's still gonna be a thing. But um, I do think that from what I've seen and from some of the, because I was talking to some of the whale snipers across both of the closed beta
Mhm.
servers,
Yeah.
and uh, just kind of getting a feel for how they feel about trapping, because I know like for example, all F4, like their top killers in 40 versus 40 were all
Trappers.
um yeah, we're all trappers.
Yeah.
But then like then it's like, okay, then like, watching the video, like is there any like coordinated attempt to push, or is everybody just kind of like mindlessly running into the circle into traps and dying? And it's like it's the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no coordination. Everybody's
Yeah.
just running into traps and dying.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, but I haven't seen I haven't seen a situation where, okay, can you take back a a point if your leading DPS is a trapper against like a wizard?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's gonna be the case. I don't think it's gonna be possible.
Yeah.
Because the range is so small.
Yeah. And
So
yeah, faster cast time the wizards get too, but then that weakness becomes more pronounced, especially if they can just
yeah,
drop a grab field in like point something seconds on top of you when you're trying to approach them to drop a trap.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like think about it this way, because everything is value for value, one for one.
Mm.
If you're free to play sniper, right, and you have an Ixion bow, and you don't do any damage, but you put a Magnolia card on, and like
Like a
yeah, I
requiem.
don't know, yeah, like a Requiem card, and you get a Silence card as well,
Yeah.
and you're basically protecting a point with your wizard, and your only job literally is to find their top DPS, which is a trapper sniper, and just hit him so that he can't do anything.
Yeah.
And like even if you don't do any damage, he also doesn't do anything because he's permanently silenced
CC.
and feared.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cast range for trap is 4 or 5, and the attack range for snipers are like 9
Yeah.
or no, it's like 10 or 11. And
Yeah.
so it's the you basically one for one a free to play ADL sniper just shut down a fully whaled out trapper sniper,
Yeah.
you know? And so like that's not worth it.
Yeah.
If that's where all your value in 40 versus 40 is going to, like this definitely not worth
Yeah. Because I think even in a lot of people are arguing like, well, it's the early game, that's why like trapper snipers are still really good. They do a lot of damage. But after watching those videos as well, if the composition of the opposing guild at the time was composed mostly of like wizards with priests and other classes to protect them, and they were AUing around the point, like what window does a trapper sniper have to jump in there and drop a trap without dying as
it.
soon
Yeah,
as they get into the AOE? So
yeah,
it was a
exactly.
composition
And Taiwan, they nerfed Smoky cooldown, Smoky card cooldown. So even if a
Mm,
sniper wants to be like, I don't know if Global's gonna get that patch,
yeah.
but if a sniper wants to be sneaky, like it's even harder because the cooldown for that Smoky hide is even longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just made it really hard overall for any class with no mobility.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know like Smoky card. I mean, the hide from Smoky doesn't last long to begin with. So with the longer
Mhm.
cooldown time, if you try to position yourself to be able to flank, and then your Smoky card runs out, you're kind of screwed because you're mispositioned, and you don't have another hide for like what, another like 15 seconds or 10 seconds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of counters for sharpshoot in general. You could build crit death. Of course, like that's not really applicable early on for DPS characters
Hmm.
because you can't just go goibs. But you can build crit death because uh snipers are naturally lower crit characters than Synexes.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Mainly because Qatar doubles the crit that you earn
Yeah.
and bows don't. So, you could just be seeing white numbers the entire time when you're sharpshooter. You could be like this big whale, right?
Hmm.
And you get 160 crit early on, when you're on 190, and that's really good already. But you're gonna go up against like another DPS character who is gonna build maybe 120 crit death, maybe 100, 130. So then your final crit number is gonna be 30.
Hmm.
So you're only critting 1/3 of the time,
Yeah.
and you're already having a hard time casting sharpshoot
Yeah.
because the cast time early on is still significant. So you might be shooting sharpshoot 3 times in 3 seconds, or maybe 4 times in 3 seconds at
Mhm.
most. But you're not gonna be critting at all.
Yeah.
You're gonna be just seeing white numbers. So then your damage then it's like half of what it is, or like maybe a third of what it is, and like that's another counter for people that don't Numa, and and just get protected by a priest.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. So that's about it. I think we've pretty much covered everything regarding that one, right? I think that hopefully that gives people a better insight when it comes to playing sniper, how it scales, its weaknesses, and if it fits your playstyle. And it does have its own place, especially in War of Imperium, obviously, but you do tend to give up a lot of advantages that other classes have. So just keep that in mind, especially if you are wanting to invest a lot into it. But yeah, if you're free to play going into it, then you know what your job is. It's as an ADL sniper is to pinpoint, as long as your targeting game is good and you know how to target whales, you know how to shut them down. All of a sudden, even if you're not the meta class, your value all of a sudden goes up by like to the 10th power or something, just by like being a free to play and shutting down a whale completely. So it's all of the play style. You could be as effective as you can be, but at the end of the day, it's up to the player. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely up to the player. Snipers are a great free to play class.
Yeah.
Especially if you're smart. If you're a smart and good player, and you want to be useful in like especially 40 versus 40,
Hmm.
like all you got to do is hug a whale and just, find their top DPS and just lock onto them and permanently disable them
Yeah.
around so that your whales can't get killed. And that doesn't require you to be a big spender to be able to achieve something like that.
Hmm.
So definitely a lot more of a free to play class that could be useful, other than something like a priest.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So I think that since we've covered everything, we can probably conclude it here. If people have any questions, just go ahead and ask that in the comments down below when we upload this video, and we'll try to answer those as much as we can. I think so far we've been doing a good job of answering all the questions that people might have in the comments. We haven't missed anything yet, so don't hesitate to do that. And again, Dollar, thank you for coming through and sharing some insight on here, because having somebody who has played the class for a very long time and has min-maxed the class as much as you have, and somebody who has invested into the class as much as you have, it probably holds a lot more weight to the people who are still thinking about going into the class, or thinking of going to another class after hearing its inherent weaknesses. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All
Good
right,
luck.
all right, man. Thank you.